Welcome back to Let's Be Honest, Chaos and Clarity in Education, where we unpack the real challenges leaders face and bring clarity to the complexity of education today. I'm Dr. Linton Atkinson.
And I'm Dr. Nash. That's right, Dr. A. This is a space where we move beyond surface level conversations and get honest about leadership, systems, and what it is to move schools forward. Today's conversation is especially timely. We're in a moment where leadership expectations are shifting rapidly, academically, culturally, and operationally.
And the question becomes, are leaders evolving at the same pace as the demands placed on them? We're excited to welcome one of my very favorite authors, Dr. Robyn R. Jackson, an internationally recognized author, speaker, and leadership expert known for her work on instructional rigor, teacher effectiveness, leadership, and equity. As CEO of MindSteps Inc., she helps educators turn vision into real impact in classrooms. And I can attest to that from the successes that I've had at my school. Her work challenges deficit thinking and pushes leaders to ensure that every student can succeed through strong systems and instruction. Many know her for her ideas surrounding never work harder than your students.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful reminder that true rigor happens when students do the thinking. Dr. Jackson, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait to have this conversation.
I can't wait to hear what you're going to drop with us. Some real gems, I suppose.
Well, let's jump in.
Let's do it. So imagine you're leading a school where test scores have declined for 2 consecutive years, district pressure is mounting, and staff morale is low. What is your first move as a leader? And just as important, what do you avoid doing in that moment?
Okay. So I'm going to start out by saying that I think that being a leader is why I'm in that situation. The reason that I think a lot of times we're facing issues where test scores are lowering, staff morale is low, all the things that you're naming, is because we've hit a leadership ceiling. That's what I'm calling it. It's a leadership ceiling. Leadership has taken us as far as we can go, and we need something different. So my first move is to, I wrote a book, Stop Leading, Start Building. So my first move is to, whenever you get into a situation where you're facing that kind of pressure, you feel like you can work your way out of it. So people start saying, oh, what do I do? So they grab a program, or they grab a book, or they listen to a podcast, or they're looking for something to do, and that's the problem. So my first move, and in fact, I just got off a coaching call with a principal who is experiencing something very, very similar. Test scores are going down, morale is starting to slip. And so she's telling me all the things she's doing to fix it. And the first thing I said is, none of those things are going to fix it. Because the first thing that you need to do is you have to question the assumptions by which your school operates to begin with. And in most cases, the pressure, the scores, we are chasing tiny incremental gains. So when scores go down, the first thing we do is we're like, oh, how do I get it back up? So we start writing these crazy school improvement plans that say, we're going to increase test scores by 5% in reading and 6% in math, and, writing SMART goals and doing all these things. Then we work really hard to chase that 5%, that 6%. And at the end of the year, we've worked really, really hard. And then we only got 2%. Or scores dropped. And that's why your staff morale is low, because you spent the entire year chasing 5%, and 5% strategies are not sustainable. So the first thing I'm going to do is stop. I'm going to stop all of that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is instead of saying, how do I get 5%, or how do I dig myself out of the hole, or how do I fix staff morale? I'm going to say, what is the school I want to build? What would 100% success look like? And then I'm going to go build that school. And I'm going to stop trying to rescue the school that I have and start building the school I've always wanted to begin with. And that changes morale. That changes focus. Instead of working hard for a tiny incremental gain, we're working hard for stuff that matters, and the results will follow.
Wow. What gets us to 100%?
Yes.
I love that thinking.
I don't.
Sometimes the incremental 5%, 6% makes us give that 5% energy.
And at the end of the day, you work hard, and let's say you made it. Let's say you went from 30% of your kids being successful to 35% of your kids being successful. All you did at the end of the day was say, okay, now we're failing 5% fewer kids than we were failing before, right? There's still 65% of your kids who are not successful. How am I going to increase staff morale if they worked hard and we're still failing? How am I going to increase staff morale when I set a goal to fail? The goal that I set was a goal to fail. The goal that I set was, okay, we're going to move from 30 to 35%. My goal was basically saying, so at the end of the year, we'll be only failing 65% instead of the 70% we're failing now. That's a goal to fail. How am I going to change staff morale if I'm setting up everything? Everything in my school is designed to create a level of failure for kids.
Wow.
Thank you, Robyn. So you walk into a school where everything looks in place. Lesson plans are submitted, pacing guides are followed, but students aren't really engaged and learning feels surface level. How do you shift from compliance to real learning without creating resistance?
I think compliance happens because people don't have something better to work towards, right? When we tell people, like even in the question, the compliance is implied, everything is in place. And that's my first thing. I'm thinking, in place for what, right? You get the culture you build. And so when we talk about how do we get out of compliance, well, the real question is, what in your culture is sending the message that we need to be compliant to begin with, right? So you can't fix that until you fix the culture. I'm working on a book right now about how to build 100% culture. And one of the things that I am grappling with, the thing that keeps emerging from the writing is that you get the culture you build. So when people talk about how do I get out of it, they're looking for a strategy, a technique, some words that I could say, some program I can put in place. That's never going to fix it. Because until you look at the culture itself and what is in the culture that you have unintentionally put in place that sends the message that compliance is the goal, you're never going to fix it. And again, I get tired of hearing myself say it because it goes back to that 100% vision. If you have a true 100% vision in your school, there's no room for compliance because the culture is not the purpose is bigger than is everything in place? And I think we have to stop training principals that the job is compliance, right? So this is a district level issue because when they come and look at your school, that's what they want to see is everything in place. Like when I first started the journey in administration, a superintendent, associate superintendent came to me, old school, well-meaning, and he said, congratulations, I'll give you some advice. As long as you pay attention to the 5 B's, you're going to be perfectly fine. I said, the 5 B's, sir? And I'm getting my notes out, I'm ready to take. He says, yeah, you got to make sure the butts are in the seats, the budget's on time, the buses are on time, the balls are on the court, and the books are in the classroom. If those 5 things happen, you'll be just fine. And we laugh, but a lot of the expectations that we put on principals are just the 2026 version of those 5 B's, right? So is the lesson plans, aligned with the pacing guide? Are the benchmark assessments in place? All these things. Those things are not what makes the school work. Those are the trappings of leadership. But it's not what builds a 100% school. And unfortunately, we talk about compliance culture and we deride it at the same time as we set up systems that just create more compliance. And so we got to stop doing that, or you're going to get compliance and then be mad about it. But you're getting what you asked for.
That is absolutely correct because some people who come to support in our schools, there was one lady who came one time and she said, if you do it this way, the superintendent's going to be happy. But then I was like, no, that's offensive because that's not the reason I want to be doing this. I want to do it because it works for kids.
That's right.
And of course, when superintendent and I had a conversation and I said, I want to do it this way, not necessarily the way you suggest, because this works for kids, she was okay with it. And sometimes those people who bring the message of compliance don't necessarily understand the commitment that's necessary, not just from you, but everyone else, to what works for kids to get to that 100% with that 100% attitude. And I love the fact that you have that book coming out. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. I got to get it written first.
That's true. So
go ahead.
You have a teacher who genuinely cares about students, but lowers expectations because they believe the students can't handle rigor. Now, how do you address that without damaging trust?
Again, the reason I'm hesitating is because you know what I'm going to say, right? If you start out with the premise of 100%, a lot of those conversations you don't have to have, right? Like the reason that you're having those problems right now is because the message that we're sending to teachers is that the purpose of our work is to get kids to pass tests, or the purpose of our work is to make kids happy. When you give people a bigger purpose, those conversations go away. I don't know. I don't have another way of saying it, but I've been coaching principals around this for a long time now, and it happens every single time. So I'm no longer even surprised by it, that a lot of the scenarios that you're bringing up, they just don't happen anymore, right? Instead, because the conversation at the staff level is always about how do we get 100% of our kids reading at or above grade level by grade 2, which is an example of 100% vision, or how do we get all of our kids eligible for at least one honors class by 9th grade for middle school vision. These are real visions that people are working on right now. If that's the conversation, then when we go into a classroom, when you see a teacher who may be out of, a feeling of kindness or trying to support students, dumbing down the curriculum, removing the rigor from the curriculum, the conversation writes itself. Because again, our goal is to help all students reach this level. The other thing is I want to talk about feedback for a second, because I think that we are not trained on how to give people feedback that helps people to take ownership of their own practice. Our feedback robs teachers of ownership because we hold the rubric. We go in and our perspective is the only one that matters because that's the one that gets written down. And then we have a post-observation conference where it's really a feedback dance. Like the teachers who are really savvy know how to play the game. I can perform self-reflection and get, oh, wow, she's doing really great on my evaluation without ever being truly self-reflective. And the situation doesn't even create a space where I can be truly self-reflective because there's a huge power imbalance. And so feedback takes away my ownership, which means I really can't act on your feedback in a way that is meaningful. When we start giving feedback to teachers that leaves the ownership with the teacher, we don't have to worry about hurting their feelings. They are a co-collaborator with us as we move towards our vision together, which means that the feedback conversation is more interactive. The feedback conversation is more designed to help the teacher own their own practice. The ownership stays with the teacher, and so does the accountability, and that I'm there to help the teacher see this is where we're trying to go. This is what I observed today, and how do we together close that gap? It's a very different conversation. And when you have those kinds of conversations, you don't have these scenarios you're talking about. They just don't exist anymore.
So, Robyn, you had mentioned for several of the questions that you've been asked, you've been sharing information regarding the school-wide vision. Can you share with us what are some starting points or your suggestions on getting buy-in for teachers buy into the school's vision?
So a principal in our program said to me recently that if you get teachers to buy in, they can always sell out. So there's a difference between buy-in and true commitment. right? And so we're not looking for buy-in. I'm not looking for it at all, because buy-in is based on how I feel in a particular day, right? How many times have we gone in front of teachers and we thought we had buy-in, and then 2 weeks later we go in the classroom and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So buy-in, if we chase buy-in, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. I want commitment. I want ownership. I want that. So how do we do that? Well, the approach that I teach is a little counterintuitive. It's different than the way that we were taught. So I'll talk through it. The first thing is the vision belongs to the principal, period. So we're not doing vision committees. We're not doing, stakeholder and all the things that we talked about, because they don't work. Okay. First of all, I was talking to a principal early when I started talking about this, and he was like, but I have to get stakeholder, I have the vision committee, I have to do all these things. And I said, okay, all right. If your vision committee creates a vision and you share it with the staff and the superintendent, and then you don't hit your vision, are they going to fire the committee or are they going to fire you? And he said, oh, no, they'll probably fire. I said, then the vision belongs to you. I don't care if the committee wrote it. You're responsible for it. So if you're responsible for it, you need to be the one that creates the vision. So that's the first thing. It belongs to you. Then the second thing is that people worry, well, if I go in the vision, where's my stakeholder buy-in? Again, we're not tracing buy-in. What you want to do is you can share the vision in a way that everybody immediately takes ownership of that vision. And so what we teach is something called the vision story. It's one of the most powerful things that I teach. And it's too long to kind of go into here, but I'll give you the TLDR, right? The vision story is, well, first of all, everybody is walking around telling themselves a story right now, right? Everything you see, you explain with story. This is how human beings make sense of the world around them. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, you immediately create a story. That person is a jerk, or maybe that person was in a hurry. And the story that you create changes how you react to what you see. And so if as a principal, you come up with 100% vision, this is what I believe 100% of our students, this is the promise that we're going to make as a school for 100% of our students. This is what success looks like. And then you go to your staff and you don't announce, hey, I have this vision, because that makes you the hero, right? And everybody's the hero of their own story. So that's why you get pushback, because you're announcing your vision and everybody is, and you're the hero, and everybody else is telling themselves a story right now where they're the hero. So in order to accept your vision, I have to let go of myself being the hero and accept that you're the hero. Is this making sense? I hope this is not getting too theoretical. I'm the English teacher.
Absolutely.
So, okay, it's making sense. So the first thing you do is when you share your vision, you use the vision story to make the teachers the hero of your vision. This is not your vision that you are delivering to the teachers. This is a vision you're inviting them to be a part of, where they get to be the heroes. That's how you get people committed to it, because then they own it. You have stepped into the story they're already telling themselves about who they are, and you're not trying to contradict their story or rip them out of their story and try to get them to step into your story. Instead, you are stepping into their story, not as the hero, but as somebody who is going to walk alongside them to achieve the vision. And all the defenses go down. And all of a sudden, people, when they see themselves as the hero of that vision, they want it too. They own it too. And so what's crazy is that when the principals that we show them how to do this, when they share that with the teachers, they get immediate and 100% ownership and alignment around that vision from the very beginning. And then you're having a different conversation. You're not having a conversation about if we do this. You're having a conversation about how we do it. And I always tell people, you can be stubborn on the vision. We are going to get to 100%. But flexible in the details, how we do it is something we're going to build together.
So, I love everything you're saying. I'm actually leading a program in District 18 in New York City where we're building up teachers into assistant principals, assistant principals into principals. And so I'd like for you to speak to someone who is going to be a principal next year, someone who is going into a school they right now may not know that they're going to get next year, what would be the first thing they should be working on? Just in tandem with what you're saying in terms of that vision, that system, and that 100% focus on all students achieving. How should they approach it based on?
I think you have to come in with a vision, right? Like this is the gig, right? Everybody's looking to you to see what's your vision going to be. And a lot of people want to do the whole listening tour for a year before they come up with a vision, but that is a setup, right? Because if you don't come in with a vision and you just listen for a year, you are reinforcing really bad habits that then you have to go and undo the next year. So I think you come in with a vision right away. But you also spend time listening to people's stories so you can figure out how you're going to enter into their story with your vision. And that does a lot of things. At first, it takes it out of you. It takes you out of you, right? You're not coming in arrogantly, here's my vision, I'm going to clean this up. Instead, you're coming in and you're saying, I believe in 100% student success, but let me understand the people here and understand what's stopping them from 100, what beliefs they are espousing right now that are stopping them from believing in it too. And then how do I help these people believe in that with me? Because that changes your culture completely. It changes the story that you and your school are telling the students, the families about why you exist and what value you bring to their lives. And then after that, the next step is then let's talk about how we build that. Because people do not tear down what they helped build. And a lot of new administrators come in and they have it all built out and all these ideas, and then people are taking shots at them. Well, yeah, because they didn't help build it. You weren't engaged. This is what shared leadership is supposed to be and isn't. We do a lot of performance of shared leadership when really we hold all the cards. But when you truly come in with a vision and you get people excited and lighted up about this 100% vision, and then you invite them to join you in building that, you start building everything over from scratch. And when you come in at the very beginning, you have this honeymoon period that most people squander listening. Whereas if you used your honeymoon period to get people excited about building, by the time the honeymoon period is over, you've built new habits, you've shifted the culture, you've created momentum that keeps going after the honeymoon wears off.
That's amazing. I like what you said. You don't tear down what you help build.
Yeah.
So, Robyn, do you have any suggestions on how do you monitor your school's commitment to the school vision? And I know that it's required that you have ongoing discussions, but is there like some type of accountability system, ways of monitoring to determine whether or not you are meeting those expectations of your school's vision?
I'm bristling at the word monitoring because it feels very leadership, right? It's not your job alone to do that because everybody owns the vision and everybody's responsible for the vision. If you are the only source of accountability, then it stops being everybody's, right? And it's those subtle things that get us drifting back into the old playbooks that then create compliance. So what I would rather do is set up a culture where everybody's monitoring, and it's very easy to do because your vision is binary, right? It's not, you're not writing a vision like 100% of students will become lifelong learners, because who can track that? There's nothing binary about that. In order for me to know if a kid was a lifelong learner, I have to be present at their grave and give them a quiz. I can't do that, right? So this is not one of those kind of visions we're used to talking about. We're talking about 100% of our students will be at or above grade level by grade 2. 100% of our students will graduate enlisted, enrolled, or employed. 100% of our ninth graders will have completed a plan for their high school plan. 100% of our students will monitor their grades and lead student So do you see all of these? If it's 100%, it's very binary. That's built-in accountability because I can look at the school on any day and tell whether we are moving towards our vision or we're not. And so can everybody else. So I don't have to monitor it. We can all see it. Kids can see it. There's a principal in our program right now. He's a high school principal, and he has 100% of his students will earn all their credits every single semester. So he doesn't have to monitor it. At the end of the semester, he has a list of kids who didn't earn credits, but so does everybody else. And so the teachers are coming to him and saying, hey, we're getting close to the end of the semester. It doesn't look like this kid's going to make it. We need to do some extra support around this kid because he's got to get there. In one semester, he went from, I don't know what his number was, to 99% of his kids earning all their credits. 17 kids, is it 13 or 17 kids didn't earn all their credits, and these were the chronically truant ones. He didn't have to monitor that. Those were the results because his vision was so clear. And he didn't have to galvanize teachers to do anything about it. The teachers were coming to him and saying, one of those 17 kids is mine. Here's what I think we should do. And every semester, the teachers, because the vision is so clear, clean, it's so focused, they're doing it. And that's empowering to teachers because I'm not coming around with a clipboard. We all own this. We are all responsible for these numbers. And so I don't have to monitor it. Everybody's doing it.
Robyn, I'm going to give you 3 terms.
Okay.
Right, that we always hear in education. And I want you to tell me what your response is when you hear those terms, right? Let's take it one at a time. The first one is standardized testing.
You want my, it's just
your reaction.
It's a fact of life. I mean, we could do a lot of railing about it, but for a principal who's showing up in the school every day, unless you're like in a legislature or somewhere else, it's just the fact of our lives, right? So it's not about whether it's good or bad. It's just how do we make it work for the kids we have in our school building?
The second one is inspect what you expect.
I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. Kids are not products. Lesson plans are not products. So, I get this idea of a person with a white coat and a clipboard coming around inspecting. What message are you sending to kids and teachers when you see yourself as an inspector rather than a builder? And so I think the moment we tell people that, you position people in a position, in a posture that is antithetical to moving the school where it needs to be. And then we wonder why we have so much compliance culture. Then we wonder why people resent you. Then we wonder why you can't stand your job every day. Then we wonder why nobody invites you to happy hour after work. That it's because of that. We've been teaching leaders for so long that is a truism. That came from somebody's factory floor. But it does not work in schools. It doesn't work when you're trying to treat people as partners in building something important.
And the last one is building teacher capacity.
I'm ambivalent about that. There's a lot of words there, building, which, I love. But then teacher capacity, it sanitizes what teachers do. And so a lot of people call themselves building teachers' capacity without context. And so there's a lot of capacity building that isn't helping teachers help kids. So the fact that I have a greater capacity to, I don't know, like, oh, look at me, I can write BCRs. I have a greater capacity. I didn't know how to do it. Now I know how to do it. Is that moving me towards my vision? So people use that term and they mean well by that term, but that term takes our attention off of the work. It sanitizes it. It makes it very clinical. And the work is not sanitized or clinical. We're talking about helping kids. And so every single day, what my job is, as I see it as a builder, is that I am keeping people's focus on that 100% vision, and I am looking for what today is in the way of our ability to do that. And then my job is to work to remove whatever that obstacle is today so that we get closer to the vision. And so sometimes in a teacher's classroom, there's something a teacher doesn't know, And that lack of knowing is standing in the way of that teacher being able to achieve that vision. I owe it to that teacher to help the teacher get the thing that they don't have. Sometimes the teacher has the thing, but they're not using it the way that they should. I owe it to that teacher to help that teacher get better at doing the thing that they already kind of know how to do so that that be no longer is an obstacle between kids and success. Sometimes the teacher is doing it pretty well. They're pretty proficient at it. And this is where building to teacher capacity leads, right? Oh, they're proficient. But proficient is not every kid. Proficient is most kids. And so under the capacity building model, most kids is acceptable, but not under the buildership model. So the teacher has the capacity, but not all kids are still being served. So what is in the way still? And usually it's a tweak or a nuance that's not necessarily capacity. It's more about just helping the teacher get more efficient at doing the thing that they're doing to get to 100%. And then there's some teachers who are doing a fabulous job. So how do I keep those teachers engaged? How do I keep them moving? So I am less interested in building capacity and more interested in what do we need to do today so that more kids are successful than they were yesterday.
Thank you.
So the work of an administrator is extremely demanding. What's one practice or mindset that has helped you sustain yourself in this work over time? Or two.
It's funny because I have been doing, we're building a whole bunch of things and programs and tools and stuff like that. And I have been so into that. And just this week, I took some time away to just kind of remember, like to kind of reinterrogate the thinking behind the work. And so I go like lock myself in my office for hours and just kind of think about it, argue with myself. And then there are these insights that happen. And then I walk out my office and I announce to everybody else, I'm like, I've been inside the matrix, right? So for me, the ideas are what keep me going. The problem solving is what keeps me going. But that's because of my will driver. So we have a framework that people are motivated differently. So what works for me is not going to work for you. My will driver is mastery. When I take time to continue to master the work, then that's what fills me up. But that's only one of 4 will drivers. For some people, their will driver is connection. So locking themselves in an office and thinking about this is the absolute worst thing that they could do. What they need to do, if you understand that your will driver is connection, you need to be out talking to people. You need to be out, you need to be intentional about getting out of your office every single day. The third will driver is autonomy, which means that you need to have choices about the things that matter to you. So what feeds you are doing things your way sometimes, finding opportunities to tweak things, to do things your way. You need time to just kind of get away and figure some things out, but not so that you can, emerge from inside the matrix, but just because you need to be able to remember and exercise choices around things that matter to you. And the fourth will driver is, mastery, autonomy, connection, and purpose. So for you, it's really about ideas and reconnecting with a lot of ideas and exploring them, not to come up with a better solution, but because the exploration is interesting yourself. People who love connection like to play devil's advocate. They like to try this one on and that one on. So you need to be around ideas. You need to engage in conversations. You need to argue so that's what feeds you. So if you understand what your will driver is, then you can be intentional about building time into your day or your week to feed what feeds you so that you have something left to give to everybody else.
Thank you so much. And you have just fed us some amazing gems. I love what you're saying in terms of that 100%. Can't wait for that book to come out. I just got to say that, punctuate it. Please. Well,
this has been hard. This is a hard book to write. This is a really hard book to write. So that's why I'm like, I got to lock myself in and write it. It's been hard, but I'm so excited about this book. I really am, because of the time. Like, we're in an interesting point in history, and there's some. See, I'll start talking about the book, but there are these forces that are converging right now that are making this a very, like, the stuff that used to work around culture, it's not working anymore. And I think I know why. And so then it makes, okay, so then what do we do now? A lot easier. So it took me probably 18 months to get to really understand why. And that's what I came out of the thinking cave this week, emerging, thinking like, I think I know why the stuff isn't working anymore. So I'm really excited to talk about, okay, once we understand why it's not working, we know what to do. And so, like, I think I figured it out. So I'm really excited to write the book.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate your time, and looking forward to getting more from you in one way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson.